All right, going to reconvene now. The next case is CMK Equipment, and Joe, you're representing them?
I am.
Okay. It's case Z0 2021-28. We have the abutter list, please.
The abutters are J. Bergeron, 55 Patriot Drive, Pelham, New Hampshire. Itubsky Etel, 60B Patriot Drive, Pelham, New Hampshire. John Hodge Jr. and Nancy Melva Rose, 61 Patriot Drive, Pelham, New Hampshire. Denise Bochard, 69 Patriot Drive, Pelham, New Hampshire. And Daniel and Johanna Holpa, 76 Patriot Drive, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Are there any abutters or folks with a statutory interest in this case? Can we try that again? All right. Is there anyone whose names were not read who's an abutter or has a statutory interest in this case? Is there anyone whose name was not called who is an abutter or has a statutory interest in this case? Hearing none. Joe.
Hi, good evening. Joe Maynard, Benchmark LLC. This is probably one of the least favorite variances I ever have to ask for, but in this case, there's some hardship to this, I would say. So I want to give you a little history about this lot. This lot was actually subdivided back in 2016. It was actually used to be a frontage lot that was on Patriot Drive. The Natubsky family who owned the land that's on the other side of this, or southerly side of this, had bought this lot when Patriot Drive went in because they were looking to someday do a subdivision with their property. And therefore, in 2016, they asked us to do a subdivision of one lot, is what it kind of came down to. So we developed a plan, and we went through the planning board to extend this street into this property to be known as Cornstalk Lane. As part of that, a 1 acre lot was left as residual land, which had some frontage on Patriot Drive and the remainder of the frontage on this Cornstalk Road that was contemplated to be constructed. Around 2017, I'm not sure how many of you remember the Natubsky brothers. They were pavers in town, kind of characters, that they did their own work. And so in 2017, they built Cornstalk Road. I never got a call for any layout, nothing, but they built Cornstalk Road. Around 2019, 2020, CMK made a deal with the Natubskys to purchase the back land in this lot that existed on this front road. We were back and forth with the planning board in 2019, 2020 between doing a conservation subdivision, conventional subdivision. Ultimately, we kind of got stuck in the middle when the citizens petition got posted, and therefore we came after that, so we weren't able to proceed with the conservation subdivision that we had started on the piece of property. So everything kind of sat and got parked until this year, when we're actually working on a subdivision, a conventional subdivision on the backside of this property for CMK. And in the meantime, this lot was already approved at the street, and it had a stipulation on it that they couldn't build a house on it unless they either put residential fire sprinkler or fire cistern for the road extension. They chose the residential fire sprinkler standpoint, and they went out and they measured off the edge of pavement, which is pretty standard for what people would do for where a road would be to start their initial layout. We subsequently went back out and did an as-built. I said, that can't be wrong. I sent the field crew back out, but I said, locate some other stuff while you're out there. So what we ended up finding out was that the pavement's not in the center of the right-of-way. And I kind of figured out what they did was Cornstalk Lane is not a typical 50-foot wide right-of-way. when you have a 50-foot right-of-way, everything is parallel to those outside lines, and your edge of pavement usually ends up about 11 feet from the edge of your right-of-way. In this case, the road is shifted over about 5 feet, and I think they were trying to hit the center of what that right-of-way was in one spot, where it's 57 feet wide at one end and it tapers down at the other end. And therefore, when CMK went to do the foundation, it became obvious after we did some work that it was in the front setback. So it's the correct setback from what you typically see from an edge of pavement to a foundation, but it's not the correct setback from that to the lot line that's there. Is that clear? So I'll go into the 5 points, but I think as I spell this out, I think what kind of makes this property a little unique is the fact that it doesn't have that typical 50-foot platted right-of-way, and therefore the dimensional requirement is, you know, if you measure from the edge of pavement, it sits the right distance off the pavement, it just doesn't sit the right distance off the right-of-way. So I can go into the 5 points, and then I can answer any questions if you have them.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I actually, never mind. I ran into this in Kittery, Maine a few years ago with a
Yeah.
subdivision. Any questions?
I have a question. Is the only thing that's infringing is that little bump out,
yes,
and the rest of the building is the 30 feet?
yep.
Any other questions?
I'm trying to follow along with you, Joe. Can you clarify this red line?
So the red line on the plan is where the actual edge of pavement is in the field. So when we went and surveyed this originally, I did not ask the field crew originally to locate edge of pavement. I just send them there, they tie into boundary, and they located the foundation. Came back to the office, and I'm like, guys, did you screw up? I'm like, it's in the setback. And they're like, no, Joe, it looks right. So I said, go back to the site, tie into some more stuff. I want to make sure what I'm seeing is right. And I said, when you're there, shoot the edge of pavement for me so I can kind of just see where it is in relation to everything. As soon as it came back, I was like, found the problem, you know, because, you know, my experience with builders over the years is, you know, when we usually lay these things out for people, but Frank and Freddie were New England guys, right? Old timers, and we did not do any layout whatsoever. And again, we discovered this pavement area when we went back a second time just to check ourselves on the foundation location. So when you look at, tried to put as much information as I could on this. When you look down toward Patriot Drive, the right-of-way width there is 57 feet. And then it tapers down to about a 50-foot right-of-way. And you can see that the pavement, and I put some dimensions on it, it's 41 feet from the front bump out of the house to the edge of pavement. But when you look at how close that is, it's 25 feet to the right-of-way. So that bump out on the front of this building should be at the 30-foot setback, and the edge of pavement should be 11 feet off the right-of-way, which would mean the front bump out should be 41 feet from the edge of pavement. But the edge of pavement's not where it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So
All right. Now I get it.
it's
Thank
what
you.
makes it a little unique.
Have you read the 5 criteria? We've done that yet?
I can, unless you want to
Why don't we do that? Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
This is breathtaking, okay.
All right. Number one, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because the property is in a residential area and this is a new road that was constructed around 2016. During the as-built of the new foundation, it was discovered to be too close to the right-of-way. Upon further review, it was discovered that the pavement is not in the standard location that we typically see. The edge of pavement is about 5 feet further away from the sideline of the road that is in front of this lot. The right-of-way in this area is also not the standard 50-foot width, and a good part of the right-of-way is actually wider than this, which somewhat explains why the pavement is not a consistent distance from the sideline of the road. Typically, the edge of pavement runs parallel to the right-of-way lines, with the edge of pavement being 11 feet in Pelham off the sideline of the road. For this property, the edge of pavement is roughly 16 feet off the edge of the right-of-way, 5 feet further than we typically see. Due to the location of the existing pavement, the existing home will actually appear to be the setback that's required in the ordinance, being that the setback in this zone is 30 feet and the pavement should be 11 feet off the right-of-way, which means that the foundation should be at least 41 feet back from the edge of the actual pavement. Two, the spirit of the ordinance is observed because the ordinance is in place for proper spacing and separation between structures, the road, things of that nature. For this scenario, people driving by this property would not even know the house is closer to the lot line than the 30 feet required. This is due to the pavement location not being parallel to the right-of-way lines. The foundation has the standard separation between the edge of pavement and the home, which is consistent in appearance to other residential properties in town, but does not meet the 30-foot requirement from the lot line. Three, substantial justice is done because approval of this request will allow the property owner to keep the foundation in this location without raising what is there and having to pour another foundation. Four, the value of surrounding properties are not diminished because this is the only property currently on the street. There is a planned subdivision further down the road, but these will all be new homes, similar in appearance to other properties in this general area. Under 5, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, a denial of the variance would result in an unnecessary hardship. Under A, for the purpose of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, 1, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because the right-of-way in this area is unique, where it starts out at 57 feet wide and tapers down to the required 50 feet is typically created in a new subdivision. It appears during construction that the contractor built the road centered somewhat on the 57-foot width, which offset the pavement from where it would typically be. As is typically done, the landowner placed the new foundation using the edge of pavement. Until the as-built was completed and additional work was done, no one was aware that the pavement was not where it typically is. Under 2, the proposed use is a reasonable one because the property owner used their best judgment to place the home, and if the pavement was in the typical location, they would have had no issues and the foundation would be outside the setbacks. In general, the as-built location of this foundation will not be noticeable since it will appear the same distance off the existing edge of pavement that other homes have in other subdivisions in town. This was an honest error, and it would cost more than $12,000 for them to tear this down and actually pour a new wall. So,
First question that pops into my head is this a town-accepted road?
not yet.
Is there a bond on this road?
Yes. There's a bond.
Can the bond be used to correct the problem?
No, without the planning board calling the bond, which I don't know that they would typically do for this type of an issue.
And we are proposing a subdivision that would extend this road, so things could be somewhat corrected, I guess, but it really, the pavement did get inspections when it was being built by, I think Mr. Keach's office did that at the time. So from a construction standpoint, it was built to the standards of the town. It's just off-center about
If it's
5
put
feet.
in the wrong place, then it really isn't built to town specifications.
Well, you know, when we look at town specifications, we look at the gravel depths, the drainage requirements, the pavement widths.
You start with where it's supposed to be.
Well, yes, we do. But I get, like I said, when I really started to look at this, I could understand what they did. They just took the distance at that 57-foot wide, and they held their lines in from the street based on that. It makes sense. And whether it's one side or the other of that center line, from a construction standpoint, I don't think you could say the road wasn't built with the proper gravels and drainage and utility lines and things of that nature.
The other problem I got wrestling with this, as you know, the state basically took away our right to consider financial loss as a piece of granting a variance.
They did, but I always find people do ask, and we had this a few weeks ago when I I think Mr. Bergeron said for the person to have to do a new septic design was a couple $1,000s. So as I wrote this request, I said, well, geez, I'm gonna let the board know, this is about a $12,000 foundation wall that would have to be ripped out in order to be able to be slid back 5 feet, is what it comes down to.
I feel like we're turning into the planning board here. What does the town engineer say about this road?
I don't know that he's aware that this is, that it's off-center in any way. I'm not sure.
I don't think anybody realizes it. We never did an as-built or anything, it wasn't required. I hadn't been to the site on that side of it since before I did the subdivision of that little stretch.
All that's there is the foundation, though. I grant it's worth $12,000, but it's only the foundation,
It's just the foundation.
which we're not supposed to discuss the cost.
But I think it's an important factor in letting people know that there is more than just, okay, it's easy, just knock it down and move it back. You know, there's...
I grant you, but again, I'm out of my depth here. I really am. I don't know what the ramifications are of having a crooked road in the town, okay, and leaving it in its place that way. I'm
Yeah.
looking at what it's, I mean, the road is not where it's supposed to be, correct?
The road is off-center from where it was planned.
And I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure, I'm a little nervous about approving a variance that would really, all due respect, cement what's there.
So, I want to throw this, so I still have to go back to planning board for the extension of this road into the new subdivision, right? And I'm going to have to tell, planning board's going to know I have a variance request that came in that the road's not centered in this right-of-way. So I will either need a waiver to leave that where it is, or my client's going to have to shim that side of the road and fix that location, so to say, to meet whatever standard I don't get a waiver for. When I look at road construction, again, the reason for a right-of-way is to give enough room for the pavement, the utilities, and all of that stuff that's in this. And when we look at this right-of-way, it's 57 feet wide, almost 10 feet wider than it needs to be at the beginning section of this road. So, you know, when we look at, does it matter if the road's a little offset in the right-of-way from a construction standpoint?
In the previous case, the statement was made that was premature. I disagreed with the person who said that. I thought it was entirely appropriate that we handle that's variance request before us. I'm just wondering, is this not premature to handle, as it's going to be before the planning board as part of presentation for the subdivision further down the road? And I'm afraid I'm going to lock them in to a mistake. Jen, you want to say something?
I do want to say something. Just looking at this plan, regardless of where the actual pavement is, he's still going to need a variance because the lot line is the lot line. And it's too close to the lot line, which happens to coincide with the right-of-way. So I don't think it matters exactly where the pavement is in terms of whether or not he needs a variance to the lot line.
Okay. So by us approving this variance, we are not imposing some kind of rigid, we're not making the planning board do anything.
I don't think it would have any bearing on if the planning board were to say later on, we want this to be moved center. It shouldn't change the fact that he still needs a variance either way.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a question. If this was reviewed by Steve Keach's office, why did he not pick this up? I mean, it's his job, correct?
Well, they wouldn't pick this up unless somebody did an as-built on it, and it was never required at this point that they were at with it. So it would come up at some point.
I don't know. I look at this as a big mistake by somebody.
I don't know. But let's go back to just looking at zoning, okay? If it doesn't affect or impose a problem for planning and approving that subdivision down the road, and we just deal with what's here, which is a simple mistake, and by approving it, we save the guy 12 grand, which sounds okay to me, and I'm okay with that, but I just don't want to make sure, I want to make sure that we're not inadvertently tying the planning board's hands going forward. David, you have a question?
So what we would be approving is a variance to the distance to the lot line of a road that's not in the right spot. Any chance they're going to be forced to put the road in the right spot?
Planning board has the authority, like, ultimately, now that we've discovered this, we'll have to ask for a waiver for that portion of it, right? So if the waiver is not granted, they're going to have to recenter the road on the original plans is what it'll be.
And is, I guess, a somewhat follow-up question. I mean, it's not in the right spot, so is someone's property affected?
No.
No?
No, it's, the town hasn't accepted the road yet, so the land under the road is still owned by, at this point, it's CMK, because they haven't transferred a deed to the town.
The same person that's asking for
The same person that's asking for
Okay.
this.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Joe, how long is that road exactly?
That first stretch of road is a couple hundred feet long,
200?
a little over 200 feet. Because I know
And
we're
it's off by
extending it
5
about,
feet?
it's off 5 feet from, well, the setback is supposed to be 30, and we're 25 feet to the right-of-way line.
What kind of condition's that road in right now?
It's seen very little traffic. It was brand new in 2017, and they had it blocked off for a long time. So there's really no traffic that's been on it.
Well, there's gonna be if you put subdivision in.
Right, we're proposing, I think it's 8 lots off of the additional length of road that would be constructed.
And you're gonna be doing paving up the road in the future?
Yep, this is only the binder too, this road. I don't think there's finished pavement on it yet.
I just think it would be easier just to move it over the 5 feet. I mean, it's not that much asphalt.
Well, the pavement, but
5
I'm
by
talking
200.
about the relief I'm looking for though is for the foundation,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Anything else before I open up to the public? No? All right, is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this variance? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this variance? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition or has a question? Yes, sir, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Robert Shepard. I represent Fred Natupsky, who is the person who sold this property to the current owner. I'm a lawyer from Nashua. I live in town here, but I have an office in Nashua. I met with Fred on Friday under short notice. Fred is not ambulatory, so he's not able to be here. His brother Franklin died in December of last year. Obviously, he's not able to be here. I know that Fred is watching this on TV, and I'm sure he is vehemently opposed to the characterization of this road. Fred told me that this road was put in under the direction of the town, that there were changes made at the direction of the town, including a catch basin put right near where Patriot Drive intersects Cornstalk Lane. But the issue is, as your acting planning director or zoning director said, the issue at hand here is where is the boundary line? Doesn't have anything to do with where the pavement is. And when we first looked at this, I first looked at this, my first impression was, how could this mistake happen? You have to know where the boundary line is. You have to be 30 feet from the boundary line. Typically, my understanding is a foundation is staked out to make sure it's in compliance. So our conclusion was that this was either intentional or it was grossly negligent. The other issue that has not been raised is, and Fred would speak to this, he wants me to speak to this. I did take a couple pictures. There is a walkout basement in the back of this foundation. I don't know if you folks had a chance to go out and see this or not, but I have a couple pictures I can distribute to the board to take a look at. Fred's position is that the walkout basement is the reason why they put this 5 feet closer to the boundary line. Because if they put the boundary line, the foundation back 5 additional feet, it would have required much more than $12,000 worth of excavation, because there's a hill in that area. The other concern that we have is the encroachment is for the bump out on the foundation, I believe, that you see on the plan. So are there going to be any stairs entering this house? I assume that that bump out is where the stairs go. So I would assume that stairs would be an additional 5 feet into the encroachment area. So are we really looking at a 10-foot encroachment here? I don't know the design of the house. Some houses have front porches. If this house is going to have a front porch, that would also encroach on the setback. Fred Natowski, as you know, is the next-door neighbor here. He lives at 60B Patriot Drive. His lot is map 40, lot 6, 185-12. The issue at hand here for this board to consider is why this happened. And it's got nothing to do. It's amazing that they're trying to blame the location of the pavement as to why they put the foundation in the wrong location. It's got nothing to do with it. You're supposed to be 30 feet from the boundary line. You can establish where the boundary line is by looking at the plan. So it has nothing to do with it. The excuse that's being used here today is a complete farce. And then the other issue here is under the unnecessary hardship issue. The chairman is correct. You can't cite a financial hardship. It's going to cost $12,000 to fix it. That's not what it can be. And I think the case law is also clear. You can't have a hardship that was self-created. And that's what happened here. It might have been different if they came to you in advance and said, because we have a walkout basement, we really want to come in 5 feet closer, or 10 feet if they have front steps, closer to the setback. And you could have considered that and granted them permission. But what they've done is put the foundation in, and they certainly have resources. This is not a property owner that doesn't have resources in order to hire an engineer and properly stake out where this foundation should be. They had resources. They could have figured this out in advance, and either they did and ignored it, or they were grossly negligent in allowing it to happen. So to conclude, my client, Fred, is opposed to this variance for the reasons stated here. And this applicant should be required to comply with your setback requirements.
Jen, was there a building permit pulled for that foundation?
Yes.
And what did they show for it? What was the construction style? I mean, the whole building plan, the whole house plans were
Yeah, we
clear?
have the whole building plans in the office,
And was there a
yes.
walkout basement?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition or has a question on this application? Yes, sir.
Jay Bergeron, 55 Patriot Drive. I guess I would have questions. The abutters notice was very vague, so I kind of was trying to understand. I saw the foundation was already in, and I couldn't really quite get why they wouldn't have seen any red flags before foundation was put in. So originally in my head, I figured it seemed more like a, let's build it and ask for forgiveness after. And then hearing his story, that doesn't seem to be the case in his opinion. But I think the rules are the rules here. I mean, you need 30 feet, and he doesn't have the 30 feet. And I'd hate to see you guys, set a precedent to other builders to try to get away with the same thing. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I haven't seen a lot of people do this. I mean, I have run into it before, but inadvertently put it properly in the incorrect spot. It just doesn't make sense that any builder would take that kind of risk, just because it's going to show up at some point. I mean, am I right?
I agree. You know, I have some towns we work in that we have to do a footing as-built. It's not even a foundation as-built, and so typically you find it, you know, during that process.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anybody else would like to speak in opposition or has a question on this? Because it's giving me a headache. Let's bring it back. Would you like to add anything else?
No, like I said, my conversations with them, I honestly think that it was an honest mistake. They pulled from the edge of pavement, and, you know, it's not centered. in the right-of-way, so.
I guess, but part of the question that was brought up by the previous speaker, okay, and this was what was scaring me, you know, being sympathetic, lots of mistakes in real estate, I've been through too many. But if this had been seen before, if they knew ahead of time that they needed to push this property back, and they could not build the house that they filed with the building permit, by granting this variance, we're allowing them to build what could not have been built if they had done this legitimately. Am I reading this right?
You know, I haven't seen the house plan that's proposed for this, but, again, I can't speak, I don't know if there's a walkout, I don't, you know, the guys come back with field plan, I get the notes, I download it, and this is how I look at it. I really think that this was more, when we produced the septic plan for this, it was based upon the design plan, right? So the design plan showed the pavement in one location. If they were to have taken that septic plan, which I produced, because we didn't have an as-built on the road, and they scale off the edge of pavement to the front of the house, they would have done exactly what they did in this case. They would have pulled off the edge of pavement using that dimension that's on the design plan. So I can't speak, for all I know about it is they called me for an as-built, we got there in a couple of days, we did the as-built, and it was in the setback. But it's the pavement's out of whack a little bit, and that's where the setback issue comes into place, so.
We have a person, a butter or a person who has interest in the case, okay, who is objecting to a house being built of this style with the walkout because of the error made by your client. And that scares me. That absolutely scares me. If it was an honest mistake, no harm, no foul, we're going to move it just that jog coming in. Big deal. But if I have somebody interested in this whole process who's mad enough to send a lawyer in here to talk about it, and in fact, based on what he's saying, that house should not have been filed that way on this lot if they had obeyed the rules. Am I reading this right?
Well, again, I haven't seen those plans, so I don't know. If he's seen those plans, he knows more than I do about what the plan looks like for that lot. I know from the septic plan we did, I don't think it was designed as a walkout scenario on this foundation.
Well, sure, it looks like it.
What's that?
It looks like it, the picture.
I haven't seen the pictures. So, like I
Well,
said, I look at things
No,
from
it's okay, Joe.
a survey standpoint.
Trust me, it's showing a walkout.
But wait a minute here. So you look at this foundation, that's not a walkout foundation.
It's not a walkout.
That's for the bulkhead.
That's for the bulkhead.
They're gonna
right.
bolt the bulkhead to this because look at the tar line.
Ah, yeah.
It's 2
This
feet
is-
down
this
from the
is-
top.
No, you're right.
We're not talking that's strictly, they bolt the bulkheads onto the back of the structure.
You're right.
It's not a walkout basement.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not gonna be.
This would have been a lot wider.
Right. They would have, you wouldn't see tar up the whole foundation either,
The
so.
tar gives it away.
So
I should have
it's
seen that. It's not a walkout.
it's
You're right.
not.
So the house could have been built, I guess
5
what I was
feet back.
looking at, I mean, I've never asked to move a question in front of us that we thought we had all the facts, but I was going to suggest we wait, but again, we come back to it, this house could have been built,
5 feet back.
Could have been. Because if I heard correctly, you said that because of the walkout, that's why you pushed it 5 feet that way.
No, I said there was no walkout on my septic plan. I didn't have a walkout basement
Yeah.
on it. It was an attached garage, right-hand side was my recollection of the
Yeah.
septic plan.
I have a question for Joe. Is this bump out on the foundation going to be the furthest encroachment into the setback, or is there a proposed front porch and stairs?
I don't think there's a porch on the plan that was sent to me, but I can't speak for stairs because there weren't stairs on the foundation plan they sent me,
Okay.
so.
I mean, typically,
the gentleman, the attorney, saying we need to know what caused this, I'm not sure we do in order to make a judgment. But I'm very nervous without having all the facts in front of me on this case. I'm going to ask that we put this over for another month and get the information on the original building permit on this property to go into it. I just don't feel like I know enough here. Not trying to give you a hard time, but it's just...
No, and like I said, I'm under the impression it was an honest mistake, and that, I tell you,
And I believe you, but I'm worried that that honest mistake had ramifications. That was my first statement when we first started talking about this. I didn't want to tie up planning. I feel like I don't know enough to make a judgment without knowing the consequences on this case. So I'm going to ask Jen, Chair can't make a motion, but I'd like to put this off for another month and ask the building department and planning department to look into what was permitted at the time and why.
Well, right now, he only has a permit for a foundation. We issue permits in phases, so he only has a foundation permit until we get the certified foundation location plan showing that they meet all setbacks. Then they get the second part of the permit.
I would like our town engineer to look at this situation, just weigh in and tell us what, in his opinion, this is all about. I'd like that as a motion if someone would do that. Nobody?
I'll make a motion that we postpone until we get more information.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? Jim, you look, and I'm confused on this, I really am.
Yeah, well, Mr. Chairman, I saw the bulkhead in the back. That doesn't moot the argument for the cost of the lack of cost, or whether it's going to cost something or not to move the foundation. That's immaterial in my mind. The cost has no association whatsoever to my decision-making process. But I think this is a very bad way to get off to a subdivision. I don't know what the planning board is going to think about Cornstalk Lane. I don't know what they're going to think about the compaction underneath that road. I don't know if they're going to ask for this road to be properly located as it should, repaved, taken up. I know personally, as a planning board member in this town, I would look at a privately built road and say, we don't know what's under that road. I don't care what anybody says is under that road. I need to know what's under that road. That's how we build things in this town. So I'm very reluctant to move for variance on this particular request. I've got some time on these boards, and I've seen foundations that have been improperly placed before in this town, and they have been moved. I mean, if you don't know where your right-of-way is, and you're a builder, you've got a real issue. And if you're coming in that way, I really question why someone would not be absolutely sure where they were placing something of this consequence relevant to the right-of-way and leave a little extra wiggle room to boot. I don't have an issue with that. That's the way I do things. Well, that's the way I think things should be done. So I'm not going to need another meeting or any more information. I'm ready to deny this variance right now. And I hate to speak so frankly, Mr. Chairman, but I mean, this is a pretty simple thing. We've got a property line, we've got a new building starting out with a new subdivision that's not right. It doesn't meet town standards. Are we going to be able to fix this?
Well, I don't know if it meets town standards. I mean, I'm asking for...
We don't know that.
I'm waiting for a 1-month delay, and I would like Mr. Keach to look at this whole thing and give us some advice here.
Mr. Chairman, in all due respect, I don't think Mr. Keach is going to be able to look at something that he didn't see happen. Unless the original landowner had this thing certified and inspected at that time of its construction. Cornstalk Lane is just a piece of pavement over a piece of dirt. That's all it's going to prove to be. I'll bet at my experience on these boards that that's what we're going to find out. But that's okay. We'll do whatever the board decides. I'll go along with it. But I don't see it.
We have a motion in front of us, okay? And I'm here, Jim. I believe you. I'm just very queasy about moving ahead with this either way.
Right.
Either way. So that's why I'm looking for it. So I'm going to take a vote right now for a 1-month delay on this case.
I just have another question. When we get this information, will we know who approved or reviewed what happened over with the foundation and the
We're going to
road?
get what we get.
All right.
We're going to get what we get, but I know right now I don't have enough information on this case. I felt that way.
Does that
from the
request, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, does that request include any information on what Cornstalk Lane is supposed to be or where it's supposed to
I
be?
want all the information I can get on this case, from the town's point of view. And we'll start with our consulting engineer. All those in favor?
Aye.
1 month.
So date and time specific,
Date and
October
time
20th,
specific.
7
The
PM.
meeting next month, by the way, is going to be different. What's the date?
It's October 20th, it's actually a Wednesday night.
So it's going to be a Wednesday night, because we have a holiday in there, and I didn't want to push it back, because I didn't want to start these delays again. All right? So we're going to put this off.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, man. He's not going to have any information. All right. Next case,
The 20th, you said?
Dolores Albertson and M&B Investments, 15 Kens Way. We're going to get through this tonight. Butters?
Abutters, Dolores Albertson, 15 Kensway, Pelham, New Hampshire, M&B Investments LLC, 31 Diamond Street, Chelmsford, Massachusetts, 01863. Michael Craven, Kimberly Craven, 32 Kensway, Pelham, New Hampshire. Forest 2016 Trust, James and Teresa Forrest, 16 Hayden Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Kevin and Kimberly Walsh, 26 Woodlawn Circle, Pelham, New Hampshire. Town of Pelham, 6 Village Green. Matthew Prudhomme, 221 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Flynn Revocable Trust, James Flynn Trustee, P.O. Box 538, Pelham, New Hampshire. Thary Thor, Ricky and James Thim, 181 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Mitchell Kozpak Revocable Trust, Pauline Kozpak, P.O. Box 646, Pelham, New Hampshire. John and Jane Singleton, 167A Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Stephen and Carol Hill, 153 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Ladico 2019 Trust, Richard and Susan Ladico, 139 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Michael and Beverly Bevins, 137 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Robert and Deborah Bork, 132 Hobbs Road. Deborah Bibbio, Mark Bibbio, 140A Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Daniel and Susan Bowton, 146A Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Robert and Lisa Moreau, 152A Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Bergeron Revocable Trust, Robert A. Bergeron Trustee, Robert A., 166 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Kozpak Fortune Revocable Trust, 306 University Circle, Hooksett, New Hampshire, 03106. Elway Revocable Trust, Deborah Elwell, Trustee, 178 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. James Knight, 11 Kens Way, Pelham, New Hampshire. Kevin Krieger, Magna Krieger, 190 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Elwell Revocable Trust, Deborah, 178 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Corey and Caitlin Pace, 118 A and B Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Robert and Linda Pace, 31 A and B Kens Way, Pelham, New Hampshire. Diane and Thomas Capps Revocable Trust, 34 Kens Way, Pelham, New Hampshire. Kathy F. Chattel Revocable Trust of 2015. Kathy Chattel Trustee, 36 Kens Way, Pelham, New Hampshire. Trent and Deborah Legatos, 208 Hobbs Road, Pelham, New Hampshire. Carl Dubé, Dubé Group, Inc., 136 Harvey Road, Building B101, Londonderry, New Hampshire, 03053. John Connolly, The Dubé Group, 136 Harvey Road, Building B101, Londonderry, New Hampshire, 03053. Luke Hurley, Government and Environmental Services, Inc., 8 Continental Drive, Building 2, Unit H, Exeter, New Hampshire, 03833.
Is there anyone whose name was not called, who is in a butter or has a statutory interest in this case? Is there anyone whose name was not called, who has a statutory interest or is in a butter to this property? Hearing none. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Carl Dubé, and Kens Way is a private right-of-way, private road. and it goes right through the middle of our, the owner's property. The owner's property is almost 5 acres in size. So you can see on the screen there, or up on the screen here, Dolores has an existing house on the left side of Ken's Way, and she has about 2 acres on the right side of Ken's Way in the back that was pre-planned by her husband for a future, 2 lots. And they were never approved, never built on, but it was pre-planned that way. And so we went out and did a survey, and did all the topo, did witness test pits by the town. Soils are very good, very excellent, actually. There's no wetlands on the site where we're putting the houses or anything. So if we were to do a subdivision, the 2 new lots that you see here on the right side of the screen, those are very square in shape. The soils are excellent. It's flat topography. There's no flood zone, no water issues. They're almost perfect lots except for 16 inches of frontage on the backside of one lot. So 16 inches of frontage. They're short of, the intention was always to be able to do 2 lots here, but when we did the final survey and updated everything, it was short by 16 inches. So that's one of the pieces of the variance couplet that we're asking for. When we do create 2 extra lots and hold the existing lot and hold Ken's Way, then we would also need a variance for creating the lots on a road that's not a Class 5 public road. So Ken's Way has been there for a long time, and there's some lots that access Ken's Way, and these 2 lots would access Ken's Way, and we would engage in a cost-sharing program if the neighbors would like us to do that, obviously, and pay our fair share of costing on that, and work that out with the planning board if necessary and the abutters. So we're proposing 2 new lots. You can see those on the plans. We have an existing full survey, conditions plan. We have a subdivision plan. Topographic subdivision plan shows all the criteria that, we would meet all the other criteria, obviously, for the town. We wouldn't be asking for any additional relief or waivers or anything. All the required requisite circles, squares, boxes, rectangles, 4K areas, setbacks, all that stuff is shown, and it actually works out very, very well. These are nice, 2 nice lots. And we have a pre-development plan for the 2 homes on those 2 lots. And what we would also do is work with the abutters or the board in improving Ken's Way. Ken's Way starts off wide, and then it starts narrowing up past Dolores's house, and what we would do is promise to improve Ken's Way for the areas where, we're accessing, obviously. That's just doing the right thing. So, the variance that we're asking for, there's 2 subsections to it, and Jen was helpful with us in getting these together, is basically the lots are really, really in good shape, but they're on Ken's Way, and Ken's Way is not a public street. And that's the only thing here before us. And we are offering to improve Ken's Way as well in our fair share, and continue to maintain Ken's Way in our fair share with whatever arrangement they have with the homeowners that are on Ken's Way already. So that's basically it in a nutshell. We have a pre-development plan there. We show the septics, grading, setbacks, wells, tree lines. It all works very, very well. And on this one, the prove-out plan for the subdivision and topo subdivision is the same as our development plan. Sometimes those are different, but these are the same because the lots are so good. We can absolutely do that and not play any games with 4Ks or lower radii and encroachment later into something that the planning board had to deal with. We're not asking for any of that. So that's really where we are with the application. And I don't know if you have any questions yet, or if you want me to continue.
Why don't you read the criteria?
Sure. Not contrary to the public interest, we're not impacting any surrounding lots and the private road is already existing. We would be on that road and pay our fair share for capital improvements as well as ongoing maintenance of the road. We also don't have to turn it into a public road and put that on the backs of the public. This way, it's all privately maintained, and it's there. It's been there for a long time, and even before that, it used to be Cutter's Passage. So this very unique property here that goes back decades and decades. And Dolores was one of the first people in, if not the first, and they've been very, good with letting people, bringing people in and engaging them and supporting what they wanted to do. And her husband died, and these two lots are finally getting back on. So in terms of the public interest, I think that would be served very well with not adding to the burden of the DPW or anything like that. The spirit of the ordinance is observed. The lots can still be maintained, by police, fire, medical, school transportation. There are the lots in the area that also have the frontage on this same private road, and we're out there front and center, and we would pay our way. Substantial justice is done. There have been other lots that have been granted access using this roadway in similar fashion over the decades. The value of the surrounding properties are not diminished because the amount of frontage the lot has, one lot has 200 feet of frontage, which is required, but it just happens to be on the private road instead of the public. The second lot has all the frontage required except for 16 inches. So we're just 16 inches short, and I truly believe, because we did the calculations, that the intent of the original surveyor did have the intent, absolutely had the intent to do two lots with 200 feet of frontage. And when you do the calculations and finalize things to today's standards, it was off by 16 inches. I don't think that original surveyor intended to have this all set up for two lots and then be short 16 inches. And we checked and rechecked. That's, what happened. I think substantial justice would be done, that the original intent of this configuration would be honored for Dolores because she started this. The values of the surrounding properties are not diminished. We have two square lots here that meet every single element other than 16 inches of frontage on one side. These lots are great. I mean, doing work in town, there's always something. You guys are always dealing with a lot or a setback or a 4K area or a well radius. It could be anything. The 15K box that you require really is supposed to be 100 by 150. We have that. We're not even asking for a waiver of the shape of that rectangle. So there's a lot of guys and ladies that come before you and ask for this, ask for that. These two lots are really, really, in great shape, meeting that intent. And the intent was there. You guys did that for a reason, because when you get an acre lot like that and it meets all those criteria, then you do have the opportunity to put in, treed buffers. You have the house front and center. You have yards. There's no impinging on the neighbors. We're not putting things in back of someone else's, where it shouldn't be. These are all pre-planned this way. So in terms of the value of the surrounding properties, we believe that they would actually, with two very, very nice high-end homes, I think the value of the properties would actually increase. I don't think they would decrease, especially if we were promising to capitalize improvements on the road itself that everyone would enjoy that has access to that road. The last one, item 5, is more than one part, as you know, but basically under 5A, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property. Ken's Way is private. It was created over a very, very long time and decades prior to that was even cut a part of Cutter's Passage. So this lot is very unique. It's not something that was just created out of, willy-nilly. This just tract was pre-planned for this. We feel that when we're paying our own way and things are accessible and we're willing to work with the neighbors, we haven't heard from any neighbors, by the way, but there might be some tonight that would come and express their views, and we would be very respectful, but we just want to point out that we will definitely pay our way to improve that road, capitalization as well as maintenance. And that wasn't put on the plans or anything, but that would be a condition, obviously, we would agree to even tonight or even moving forward with the planning board with the 2 new lots. But the intent of the purpose of the ordinance, obviously, is to provide safe roads, and we want to improve Ken's Way, even though it's private, to a certain point that it's balanced aesthetically. The drainage out there is excellent. There's no topo issues. There's none of that. And we'd be happy to do that. And at no additional cost to the town, obviously, to take over something and start maintaining things as a town road and adding more pavement or anything like that that would be necessary on the town side. The other item is simply the question under 5A II is the proposed use reasonable? And we believe that it is. The frontage coming short 16 inches was, I believe, just an honest, it wasn't even a mistake. I think it was an intent that when you do survey closure calculations, decades ago, and then you do them today, and there's things that happen out there, it just happened. But the reasonable use is these 2 lots are really virtually perfect lots. We're happy to see that. I'm happy to move forward with these boards if you're willing to do that, because I just hate going before this board, that, and the planning board with lots that need a lot of stuff, need a lot of relief, a whole handful of stuff on lots. There's always something, but these 2 are really, really in great shape on that end, and we believe that's reasonable, and especially if we're going to pay our way to improve the road and pay our way to continue to help maintain a road, we believe that's very reasonable, and it fulfills the original planning of Dolores' ex-husband and herself in moving forward with her retirement planning. We did include the last sub-item of 5B, just in case the board wanted to hear that argument. But owing to the special condition of the property and distinguish it from other properties in the area, and I mentioned earlier that we're not creating a private thing to skirt something or anything. This private road has been here a long time, and before that was Cutter's Passage. And it was all pre-planned for this. They just never created the 2 lots when they could have, and had a lot of people approach them on it, including a back neighbor. And now she really needs to do this now, and she's respectfully asking us to do it, and we've discovered that we need variances now because of the private way issue. And that's really about it in summary.
Is there an agreement among those with frontage on this road? Some kind of maintenance agreement in existence now?
That's a good question. When we do the registry research, now there would be agreements filed at the registry of deeds, and we can't find any. And I'm sure the neighbors, those who are here tonight, might come up and explain that even further. If we can't find one, but it doesn't mean there isn't an agreement, it's just not recorded at the registry. It might be a verbal agreement, we're not even sure. But the gentleman that might come up after me to testify, they may say there is none, and we've been doing it all along. And
Well, the problem that I have in this day and age, if that house was being sold,
correct.
you're not going to get a mortgage on it unless there's an agreement.
Right. I think, Mr. Chair, that it's reasonable to say that Ken's Way there are lots recorded at the registry that enjoy Ken's Way, and there are people that are maintaining Ken's Way right now, obviously. And we would enjoin them in any type of agreement that would be reasonable, that we would pay our own way, and we would create, I think if you were to approve this tonight, it would be conditioned on some kind of an agreement that the town attorney would review, and we would enjoin.
Is Ken's Way a public right-of-way? I know it's a private road, but is it a public right-of-way?
It's actually a private 50-foot wide right-of-way, and it's a private road on top of it.
But there's no public access to that road.
Technically, no, but people drive up and down it. As a matter of fact, I think the town, I mean, other people could probably know better than I do, but there is a driveway off this road that goes to the town lands that someone's enjoying to get to the town land back and forth. And we would probably honor that if we knew the purpose of it that's behind it, and the town enjoys that driveway somehow, and we would continue and put some kind of a registry.
But I don't understand who controls, I mean, who owns the road?
Well, Ken's Way goes out back beyond Dolores's property, and it keeps
Right,
going.
and I just saw that there's a number of houses back there.
Yes.
So
I
do
think
they own that road?
I think that those are good questions. I know that Dolores owns the land underneath the road where we're showing the essentially a 50-foot wide right-of-way. That's shown in the plans and deeds, et cetera. Once it gets beyond that, it may legally morph into other rights of passage, but not necessarily a full right-of-way all the way down and around. But I think that it would be fair to ask that if we were to do this, that a legal instrument be put forth at the Registry of Deeds that gets approved by the planning board when we do the subdivision, that cleans that up. I would agree that that needs to be consummated. It would need to be recognized and not just a verbal thing that people are.
You understand that the selectmen also have to approve this?
Yes, through the RSA, yes.
RSA.
So that's why the town attorney would check, and I would think that the abutters would want to, that have access, that access this road, would also, title, all that stuff, would probably want to consummate that as well, and we would be a part of offering, to do that, if they wanted to. If they didn't want to, we would still at least do our frontage of Ken's Way over our own property.
Any questions from the board?
I just have one. When you talk about improving the road, what, in fact, do you envision for that?
Well, the first thing we would do is we would want to meet with the people that use the road and get obtain what their thoughts and recommendations are. That's always a good thing. We haven't heard from anybody, but the people got the notice on this one, the first step. That would be part of the planning board process. Ken's Way starts out wide and nice at the beginning, and then once it gets to, it goes beyond two driveways to Dolores is the second driveway. Then it starts narrowing up even further beyond that. And we would offer to widen Ken's Way pavement to a point that, the abutters would, enjoy. If they wanted it wider, we would widen it. We think that in working with the town for a number of years and the fire department, that type of thing, that, usually they would like to see, 18 to 20 foot wide through all the way. And I was just talking to our client, and they would offer to do that for the portion of Ken's Way that's on our land. And the driveway to the second lot is, at the beginning of the lot, so there's another 200 feet there that we don't even benefit from, but we would offer to improve that as well to a certain point. Usually that's 18 to 20 feet wide and properly crowned and drained. We would put swales in, on either side and make sure that everything drains
You
properly.
can save all that for the planning board, because they're going to have to approve the
Sure,
subdivision.
yeah.
So I'm concerned with other things. I'm concerned that, is there such a thing as this road legally? Do these lots that extend further up Kens Way
Well,
have frontage on a
yeah.
legal right-of-way?
I can partially answer that question. On the, there's a note on the plan, I'll just recite it, based on our research. It's note 9. It shows up as note 9 on sheet 3 even, in other areas. Kens Way is a private road under administrative decision number 2138, dated April 1998. The town of Pelham had made notice that is not responsible or liable for maintenance of the road and right-of-way. But it was recognized under administrative decision that it is a private road, and that's a good distinguishment. It's not just a driveway that someone says private road. And as you know, your own town attorney would, tell you as well as your town engineer that it was recognized as a private road, and that has certain standing by the town. And it's not just a driveway that we're calling it a private drive, it's a private road, which has, a certain standing under case law. So it's not just a willy-nilly thing, it is a private road.
I got it.
Yeah.
But again, despite there was a law passed, 3 years ago, okay, that clarified the rights of people on private roads. I get that.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, although that relieved some of the burden for forced maintenance agreements, there still needs to be something for most mortgage companies to grant a mortgage on these properties.